Howdy, my handsome little homies. Welcome back to another episode of MB2 Underground. I'm Sarah Kiefer.
And I'm Jonathan Tyrock, better known as JT. I love the drum roll.
You like that?
Loved it.
Just making sure that the mics are picking everything up.
Well, you know, if our undergrounders don't know this already, our mics pick up everything.
They sure do.
So that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
What's up today? Anything exciting going on?
My fiance's project managing a move, so us being here today gets me off the hook for the most part.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
But then I realized I was supposed to roll letters for this person's name, and I realized I am SOL.
Can't roll L's either?
I can roll only in like the gargle, not in the front.
Okay.
Like, not like, I can't do that.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll take this one then.
Okay, you got it.
We're obviously very excited to welcome our guest today, who he is the vice president of revenue of InsideDesk, Mr. Eric Gallegos. Welcome, Eric.
Hey, good to be here.
Did he say it right?
I think you did pretty good, yeah.
Can you say it?
I can, Gallegos.
Gallegos.
Okay, you said I can. Trust me, I've got this.
I would hope so.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
It was cool for me just in preparation, seeing that you've worked with a couple of different dental vendors that I have in my tenure here at MB2.
Which ones?
Lighthouse and InsideDesk.
That's right.
Yeah. How did you did you start in dental, or did you start with nerd things like SEOs and such?
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody, I think most people that are vendors don't start in dental. They end up here by some fluky accident. And, I worked for a marketing company. You're a great marketer, right? Started there.
Such good marketing.
So I worked for a marketing company, and we bought Lighthouse, and then I ended up running it. And so, no, I didn't start in dental on purpose, but got here and fell in love with it. The people are great, the market's great, and it's just a really cool little place to be. And
So dental found you. I think we've always actually said that a couple of times on the podcast. Dental found you, yet you chose to stay. What's kept you here?
Yeah, again, the market's just awesome. I mean, the people are fantastic. I remember when I was leaving Lighthouse, I said, whatever I do next, I wanted to be in dental. I wanted to be working with DSOs or DPOs, right? Wanted to be working kind of a little bit bigger market. And I wanted to stay in software. So here we are.
Cool. And so Lighthouse 360, that was patient communications, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
And ultimately you guys sold it to Henry Schein. When was that? Back in 2019 or so?
HS1, yeah, that's right. I think it was, beginning of 2019.
Okay, very cool.
But take us back a little further. Tell us about your first professional interview. Why? Did something funny happen?
Yeah, so I had a job with this guy named Tim Alvarez. He's a leader of mine. I worked for him a long time. Worked with him a couple of jobs. And he asked me a question. He was concerned I was a young guy, and he wanted to make sure I really understood like how much responsibility there was in the job, right? He's like, hey, do you really
That never happens to men. I feel like women get that question a lot. Do you really know what you're in for? Are you ready for this? Are you sure you understand?
Well, that's what I got. I got that question, right? And I wanted to say, yeah, I understand, right, what this job encompasses. And for whatever reason, I said, I understand what this job circumferences. And I felt so stupid. And I don't know why, but it's this like one thing, like my entire professional career. I think about this.
Hilarious.
It's ridiculous. And I think about it all the time. Like it stays in my brain forever. I'm like, why did I say that? Why did I say this one thing? 25 years ago, it still bothers me.
I don't think it should bother you. I think that's actually a really great story. And it kind of makes sense, right? Circumference is the measurement of like the outside of a circle?
Yes.
So it's like, hey, you're literally taking the entire, I don't think you should be embarrassed by that one bit.
You said yes. I also know geometry, bitch.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it was close-ish, right?
The point I'm trying to make
close
is
enough.
that you can go from saying circumferences to being the VP of revenue at InsideDesk.
That's right.
what your story is teaching our listeners today.
Right. Aim high.
So tell us about Henry Schein 1 comes in, buys Lighthouse 360. You move over to InsideDesk. What was that transition like? And what was that transition like?
Yeah, it's a good question. We got bought by HS1, and I hung out there for about a year and a half, and it was a lot of fun. But when you scale a business, right, after a couple of years, quite frankly, I was just burned out, right? It was like, hey, this is kind of rough.
Sorry, for my clarification, when you were at Lighthouse, were you a part of the company that bought Lighthouse or were you bought by Lighthouse?
Yeah, so originally we bought Lighthouse.
Okay.
Right, we brought it in, right? We were a marketing company and we were trying to find a software, a SaaS platform, something that we can sell that was a little bit stickier than just, right, marketing.
Right.
So we bought Lighthouse and it went really well, right? We scaled it pretty quickly and within a few years we were able to sell it to HS1. That went obviously really good.
So you went through the process of being a part of the acquisition and then being part of the sale on the other side.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, how was that?
It was awesome. I mean, you learn a lot, right? You learn
Yeah.
a lot about buying something small and growing it and the failures that come with that, which there were a lot. But you also learn about all the successes, right? And so you hope that you've learned enough that when you take it into your next venture that you can find the same type of success. And so InsideDesk has been really great, right? You took a little bit of time off, right? I've worked really hard, sold Lighthouse. That was super fun. And then it was like, well, what am I going to do next? And our founder, Paul Chen, right, who is founder of InsideDesk, he always says it was a 2-year interview process. He interviews slowly. So we talked for a long time. And one day I just said, hey, he called me. He's like, hey, can you start? And I said, no, I'm on the beach. I can start in 6 months. And
Which
so,
beach were you at?
I was in Mexico. It's my favorite place. You know,
Where in Mexico?
I was in Tulum.
Tulum. Okay.
I've never Tulum'd before.
Yeah, it used to be a really beautiful place.
Wait,
It used to be.
Used to be. I thought you said it's one of your favorite places.
The beach is magical, right? But it's like really popular now. There's a ton of people, ton of clubs. So if you're not into like
Who's not?
Oh, this guy.
Okay. Got
I
an
like it on the
8:30 bedtime.
periphery. But you know what I do like from Mexico? I think you're a mezcal guy, right?
I'm a mezcal guy.
So I'm not necessarily a huge mezcal person, but I have grown to really enjoy tequila.
Love tequila.
I was about to say, a question from our listeners, is mezcal tequila?
Technically,
Is it like the finger thumb thing?
it's almost like the champagne thing, which is like if
Got it.
tequila has to come from tequila, has to be in Mexico, but it is a form of agave that's fermented. Mezcal is basically any other fermented
It's the sparkling
agave.
wine of. Got it.
Yeah, but one's smoked, the other one's basically steamed. So. Tequila's great though. We can do an hour podcast on that if you'd like.
Yeah, can I exit for that? 'Cause
And here you were worried, oh man, what are we going to talk about? We could literally talk about tequila and tacos because I understand too, you're a taco connoisseur.
I travel for tacos, yeah.
Okay.
What does that mean?
I mean, tell me where there's a good taco, I'll go then get it.
So you're like a taco groupie, like how some people follow like concert people around. You're following tacos.
Yeah, sure, I follow tacos.
Okay, so back on track. here.
Anyway, so you're on the
Mexico.
beach.
Well, yeah. So Mexico, was it Tulum? How did you discover Tulum as like being one of your favorite places to be?
Mexico is one of my favorite places to be, right? And in 2020, I left Lighthouse and started traveling, and the only place that was open was Mexico.
I was going to say, fun time to start traveling.
Yeah, it was the best. There was nobody anywhere. You get on a plane, there'd be 3 people,
Yep.
and you're like, oh, cool, I get the whole row to myself.
Creepy though, right?
Yeah. But not the 3 rows, the 6,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I spent a lot of time traveling around Mexico for about 6 months, and Tulum was great. It was it used to be a tiny little beach town, but it's grown up a little bit since then. But at the time, it was amazing. You'd be at dinner, and these people were from Germany, and these people from Italy, and those people were from Spain, and everyone's talking different languages. But then when they talked to each other, it was English. And so it was just this cool, like just amazing cultural experience.
inclusion,
Yeah, because all these people were trying to escape and find a place that they could hang out. They were all in Mexico, and it was a ton of fun.
That's cool. So did the taco mezcal love of tacos in Mexico, did that come from your time in Mexico over COVID, or is that just a normal?
I'm brown, my man.
I love how you put your arm up just in case you were curious.
Fair enough. Well,
I'm from South Texas.
Okay.
Right? And on the border, McAllen, Texas.
McAllen, Texas.
10 miles from the border. So I grew up with, I tell my friends this all the time. I said, you haven't had a tortilla if it wasn't made with lard or beef tallow, right? You need either pork fat or beef fat to really understand the flavor of an unbelievable tortilla.
This is the most ADD episode we've ever done because we were talking about the beach because he was waiting on a phone, or he got a phone call for a job.
But he was in Mexico.
I know.
No,
Sorry, I know I steered us off.
That's okay. That's all right. All right. So
should I plan a trip to Mexico?
You should absolutely plan a trip to Mexico.
Mexico's amazing.
Okay.
You've never been?
I've been to Mexico. I just feel like now I need to go again.
Oh, always. Okay. All right. Now
So
let's
they called you and you said,
bring it
I'm
back
on a
to
beach.
some business. That's right. So you can't start for 6 months. 6 months
that's
go
right.
by.
That's where the
That's where we
conversation
are.
started.
Why can't you start for
Y'all
6
are great at
months?
this.
Really?
Oh,
I think we get fired after this. Wait, what? Why 6 months?
I mean, it was a hiatus, right? I like to tell people I was retired because it just sounds cooler, but I just took 9 months off and left.
Gap year.
Yeah, left Lighthouse. It was in good hands. It was in a great place. We had scaled it from 2,000 to 15,000 clients, sold it at HS1.
It's
and it was
amazing.
like, time to take a little break. It was COVID. There wasn't much to do. So went to Mexico and started in Cozumel and then Cancun, Tulum, Oaxaca, Puerto Escondido, Mexico City, right? Just kind of ran around and ate good food and
So I'll get back to you when I'm in the States.
got a good tan. What's that?
You said I'll get back to you when I get to the States.
Yeah, Paul called me in January and said, can you start in February? I said, no. And then in February, he said, can I start in March? I said, no. Can you start it? I said, the soonest I will start is July. And then in May, he called me. He's like, can you start next month? I said, I've been off for a few months. Yeah, why not? So went back.
I like that strategy. Like I'm just going to keep bugging you until you say yes.
He did a good job, yeah.
Yeah.
being politely persistent. There's nothing wrong
That's
with that.
the word, persistent.
Yeah.
So what's the experience with InsideDesk been like?
It's a startup, right? I mean, if you think about DSOs or DPOs or whatever place you have, you're finding the right people and putting in the right processes and making mistakes and growing and celebrating those wins, and then figuring out how you can be better when you mess up and starting over again. So,
What would you say is the best mistake you've made?
oof,
That's a really good question.
Thank you.
that's a great question.
Thought of it myself.
Look, I think when you're in this world,
Don't get up and start walking around.
Yeah. Look, I'm trying not to move my hands, right?
Oh, it's so
Everything
good.
catches everything. Look, I've hired too early. I've hired too late. I've bit off more than I could chew. You do a bunch of stuff. I think the best mistake I've made was I've been overconfident in when you're such a believer in your people, in your product, you're like, oh, we're going to be able to do this thing and we're going to scale it this fast and we're going to generate all this revenue. And then you realize like, oh, this market hasn't done this before, right? You're literally creating the market as you go. And so what you end up realizing is, okay, how do I adequately and appropriately forecast so that I don't put my foot in my mouth all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like your people are depending on you, right? Your product people are depending on you. And you're like, we're going to go do all these big, great things. And then what ends up happening is you do a very good thing, but they're measuring against the great thing you said you were going to do, right? And so what happens is people measure against the gap and not against the gain. And so what you want to do is gain appropriately and say, hey, we're going to do this thing. And when you hit it, you go, this is unbelievable. We're killing it. because
Under promise, over deliver.
kind of. I mean, you still want to stretch, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you still want to stretch for success, but you know, if you think you're going to, again, I'm making it up, but if you think you're going to do $5 million this year, and last year you did 2 and you do 4, right? Like, oh, we missed by $1 million.
Yeah, you missed by $1 million. You
Instead of
didn't
looking
gain
at
another 2.
But you doubled,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And so measuring against the gain and not the gap is one of the bigger mistakes that I've made. That's like, okay, how do we goal appropriately and measure things appropriately so everyone feels great and be successful, right? Because to your point, you can goal pretty terribly and people feel good about bad outcomes, right?
Right.
That's right. I like that a lot. You said something that was interesting to me, which is you're basically creating the market. Like how have you guys been able to go out to practices and educate and then essentially create that market, right? Like you said, you start with this product that can absolutely be useful because you see a hole or a need.
I just got a question from our listeners.
Okay.
Can you dumb down what InsideDesk is and what you guys do so that our listeners, for sure our listeners, know the impact of the question JT is asking?
That was really good, Sarah.
You like that?
It's a really
I like
good.
that.
Yeah, that was actually really good. Let's frame it up, right?
Let's frame it
Who's
up.
the listeners?
Yeah, look, we've been talking about Lighthouse and InsideDesk, so now I'm in my brain, I'm like, am I saying the right
And
company?
Mexico, yeah.
And, yeah.
ADD.
Mezcal
That's right.
and tacos.
Look, I think in the simplest form is our business is treatment to cash. How can we help DSOs, DPOs, right, group practices collect money faster? And in the dental world, there's this concept of quality of revenue, right? Quality of revenue in a lot of ways is about how can we forecast the amount of money that we're bringing it in well.
Okay.
And if you can do that, people like that, right? Investors like that. Your employees like it because they get paid, right? And the banks like it because they can say, oh, we can lend you more money.
Okay.
So our whole job is how can we collect faster so that you guys ultimately don't lose as much money as you currently lose, right?
And how do you do that?
So it's automation, right? I mean, what we do today is actually, I'm going to back up two steps on how we do that.
Okay.
When I started, to your point, you're building this market, and there weren't even revenue cycle titles, right? I was like, oh, I'm going to type in revenue cycle leader, and I'm going to call all these people, and you type it, and they'd be like,
You got one hit, Tammy Noah.
Tammy wasn't even that. She
Oh,
was like
no kidding.
integrations, operations, queen of MB2 or something. And in the old days, revenue cycle was a cost center, right? It was like, oh, we got to put people to collect our dollars, right? But your doctors get paid on collections. Your business runs on collections. And so what we've done is we've created this platform that automates EOB collection, right? You're not waiting in the mail for something to come in. We automate it, we pull it in for you, and your people say, oh, we have money. We can start posting these dollars and collecting these dollars. And so something that took, 21, 31 days, whatever it was, to get in the mail, we automate it and put it in this platform. And sometimes you have it in 5 days, sometimes you have it in 7 days, and right, you increase your ability to collect cash quickly.
That's awesome.
The first time I ever did an integration, I came from marketing, so I didn't know anything about anything. And I remember the team asking what they do with their EOBs. I didn't know what an EOB was. I was like, oh yeah, the EOBs be EOBing. It's just interesting to hear, like, I didn't understand what revenue cycle was. And so hearing now that I'm at a point where I understand it better, and the impact that InsideDesk has been able to make, because I felt like the more I got to know it, the more I understood that there were resources, but there weren't necessarily tools, if that makes sense.
That's right.
And getting to a point where you guys have built something like that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was an interesting time, right? I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but I'd be talking to other vendors, and they go, why do you think you're revenue cycle? And I'd be like, why do you think you're not revenue cycle? Like, you collect money, right? You literally make it easier for people to collect dollars. So the market's changed quite a bit now, right? There's trade shows about revenue cycle, right? There's a lot of things going on in the world that people are realizing, hey, it is important for years, right? Especially with DSOs, like let's produce. And then one day they wake up and go, where's all the money?
Right.
Right. It's like, oh, we know where it is. We can help you get it faster. So that's what we do.
That's a compelling,
I feel like it inherently answers your question.
Oh, it did, but that's a very compelling case, right? It's, hey, we know where the revenue is, or we know where the dollars are, and we'll help you go get them faster. And probably, in my mind, I'm over here thinking getting them faster. Well, you're getting probably some dollars that they weren't going to ever get. They're able to get now too.
That's right.
When we had Tammy Noah, which I mentioned, we had her on.
The integration operations queen of MB2. Yes.
That's right.
Call her by her full title.
Sorry, Tammy, I apologize. So we had her on a handful of podcasts ago, and she was talking about kind of her role here and InsideDesk specifically. How did you get hooked up with Tammy, and what did that ultimately, what has that led to?
Yeah, I started in June. Remember I told you that? And I think like my third day, they're like, oh, we need you to meet this lady named Tammy. She's at MB2 and we're trying to make her.
Did you say after 3 days?
Yeah, it's like
You're like the new guy. I don't know if I'm offended that they were like, MB2 can get the new guy.
Hey, it's obviously work.
There was only 8 of us.
Okay, valid. Okay, you win.
Little does Eric know. Paul, is that right? Who called you? He called in January because he needed Eric to meet Tammy in January, in February, in March.
Strategic planning.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I get on this call and there's Tammy. And they're talking about EOBs. And I'm like, I have no idea what we're talking about.
The EOs, BBL.
EOBs, yeah. Revenue cycles, like what? And she's like, oh, I'm in Dallas. I'm like, oh, my brother lives in Dallas. I'm going to be there for his birthday. I'll come hang out with you. And she said, okay. So I came up and saw the building, which was not, this building was like an idea.
Because that was 2021.
It was 2021, that's right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this building was an idea. The Mac wasn't here, right? Like all this cool stuff you guys have added. But that building was still super neat. 2 floors, a bunch of cool stuff going on, paintings, all that stuff. And we went and ate some crab place that she loves. We ate there last night. And I just said to her, like, hey, can we just do this thing? I mean, that's basically what happened. She's like, yeah, okay, let's try it out, And that's about as silly as it was. I was just like, can you just give us a shot? And she did, and she goes, this sucks. No, she said, hey, listen, I see that this is probably the best part about MB2, and it has to be a cultural thing here, but Tammy, right, she believes in it. She will see something and go, I know what it can be. And we are willing to be patient with you. If you take our feedback, and we will help you build this into something really, really good.
That's
right?
what I wanted to hit on, because as somebody as part of MB2, that's what I kept hearing as the buzz of InsideDesk partnership was building, was they're partnering with us on building a platform based off of our feedback that works for us. And coming from different softwares and different iterations of support we've had, we've run into a lot of bottlenecks of, oh, we can't do that, or that doesn't exist, or that's in the roadmap, or whatever they'll say. Was it something that you guys had planned from the beginning, or like did y'all have something that was like already built and it was like, oh, we can adapt it? Like, what got y'all to a point where you're like, okay, I can learn something from her, let's figure that out together?
Yeah, I mean, it's a 2-part question in that we had another large DSO. They told us what their problem was, and so we were collecting EOBs for them, and it was like, oh, this is helping us. And Tammy goes, hey, this helps, but how do we measure their performance, right? How do we get better visibility? How do we, you can make this product better. And we were like, oh, great. Well, tell us how. Selfishly, right, for me, I didn't even know what revenue cycle was. Everything I learned from revenue cycle, and probably my first 6 months to a year, was Tammy telling me, like, this is this and this is that. I'm like, hey, what is this thing? And she's like, you're dumb.
Oh, she did that for you too?
Hey, yeah, I was going to say, that makes 3 of us sitting in this room.
Yeah, listen, she's, is she patient? Yeah, she has to be, right? Technology moves slow and jumps far, right? It moves and then it's like, boom, here's this big leap, but it's iteration and iteration and iteration. It was easy to find someone who was so willing to impart their knowledge and not feel like I was imposing on their time. And I was learning the market. So she was super helpful in teaching us and teaching me and helping us guide. You know, I tell Tammy all the time, like, we would have gotten to where we were going anyway, right? We were going to get here. But in the same way we help you guys collect cash and help GSOs collect cash, she helped us learn quicker, right? Hey, here are things that are important. Here's how they're important. Here's what I would do in your case. And then you go and talk to other groups and they're going, oh yeah, we're having that problem too. And we see that, and that would be helpful for us. And so you take someone's concepts, right? You take our ideas and a little bit of, you know, massaging in terms of where you should be going. So in a lot of ways, what MB2 did for us is help us prioritize the stages in which we were building, right? And it was really helpful. Yeah.
Do you think that or where do you think it comes from, yours or InsideDesk or whoever's ability to say, you know what, I know that in this space or in this situation, I may not know as much as the person I'm talking to, and I'm going to put that aside and learn instead of going in and trying to say and prove that I know what's going on. Like, I feel like in so much of today's world, it's like this ego fit of, I'm the expert on this resource for you. You're not telling me what to do with it. I know what I'm doing. So for you to be able to say, listen, I know I can learn from here. I don't see that in everybody. Do you think that's something that's learned or something that you've had?
I mean, look, I think it helps to not know anything, right? When you come into a market that doesn't exist, like, what's there to have an ego of, right? Like, I don't know. I think the other part of it is, and I really believe one of our founders is Alan Jorgensen, and he also founded Lighthouse, right? And Alan has, from the very beginning when I worked with him at Lighthouse, was like, your clients, your customers, your users are the most important thing, and your reputation is the most important thing. And so whatever you say, you have to do, right? I took that at Lighthouse, and we listened and, right, fixed things and made things better. And when you take it to InsideDesk and you have, again, our other founders who are tech founders and don't know what's going on, like, the only thing that you can do is listen to the people, right? The most important thing is that they enjoy the product, right? Love Tammy, love Clint, right? But at the end of the day, our customers are our users. It has to make their job easier. It has to make their job better.
Yeah, if it doesn't, there's no need,
There's
right?
no need, right? And so from there, right, it makes Tammy's job easier, right? Because she has more visibility. She understands what's going on in the business. And then for Clint, right, all of a sudden they can predict more. They can predict their dollars, right? Their quality of revenue is up. And so revenue cycle flows up, right? In a lot of ways, it doesn't really flow down. It flows up from the user. And so in our world, we didn't know any better, right? And we knew there was a problem to solve, but we didn't really know how to solve it. And then two, like, especially here at MB2, they're just so thoughtful, right? Like, we have to, like, it's okay to tell us things are broken. They're like, oh, these are the 10 things that are broken, right? And so as you get into the space, you know, I talk about dental and what a great market it is and what the people. You continue to go to more of these DSOs and DPOs and meet more of them, and all they want to do is be helpful. And so it's just a great market. Most of them don't have a lot of egos. They just, how can you help us? And we want to be helpful. And so we just listen and we go.
Love it.
Yeah, that's cool. Culturally, I think there's a lot there that aligns, which doesn't shock me, but it aligns with how we think about things, and certainly how Dr. V talks through and what he impresses upon us here in the support side, right? It's our doctors are our most important, you know, our partners are our most important people, and we need to give them what they need to do, and their most important people are their patients. And so how can we do our job best if we don't listen and we don't come hat in hand to say, tell us how we can do this, and we will happily solve an issue if there is one, or figure out a way to do this. But it's that corroboration and collaboration, I think, that really has pushed certainly things forward here. It sounds like with the relationship that we've had with you all, and just the organization in general, that you guys have really pushed forward because you've seen collaboration with us as well as other groups, which is a really, really cool thing. But it takes a special group to say, hey, we realize, like, we want to do this well, but you help us help us help you.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It also helps that the tech stack sucks, right? I mean, everyone's like, you can do that? Can you help us, please?
Well, it goes back to you creating or at least educating the market and saying there's a need for this, whether you recognize it or not. Like, we've identified something, like we can help, but you don't know that you need this. But
we've solved a problem you may not even realize you have yet.
It's weird. It's not even that they don't know it's a problem. It's that they're at a place where it's like they've given up that there is a solution. They go, this is just the way it is. This is the way it's been for 40 years. The dental tech, just generally speaking, isn't very good, right? And so I think that's part of it too, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think we've seen over the last probably 3, 4, 5 years, we've seen some growth in the tech side on at least I have on the tech side in dentistry. And so I think it's getting better. You guys being the front line, kind of one of the front lines of that and bleeding edges, which is really, really cool.
Look, it's hard to be like RCM's cool, but it's like RCM's fun and dental tech is super fun.
Yeah.
And nerd.
It's when we ran Lighthouse, we would call doctors on the phone. And we're like, hey, man, you can automate these texts. And they'd be like, we love calling people. We'd be like, do you? Right?
Or are you just used to doing that?
Yeah. And then our clients would call us like 3 months later. They're like, they're very mad you send them a text. They got charged a quarter for that. And they're like, you should give them their quarter back. Like if they're that upset about it, you know? And now today people can't even imagine, like, you're going to call me? Like, just text me. I'm working and I'm on a podcast. I need to accept my appointment, right? RCM's the same way, right? It's like, they're like, wait, you can do what? I don't have to do what anymore? But the way they think at first is, well, we have our processes. Like, we've done such a great job. Like, our revenue cycle's so good. I'm like, is it?
Every dentist I think I talk to, they collect 100%. I don't know if you knew that.
No, my favorite one is everyone says we collect 98%, of our dollars. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I can show you how you don't.
Yeah. I always like to go
back.
back.
If it's 98%, there's still 2% that's out there.
Well, like, again, I don't want to get into the nerdy stuff, but when you have 3 months of AR outstanding, you should be collecting more than 98. But I don't need to get into it today.
That's what I tell everybody.
that comes up a lot. Where in my part of what I do here, we work with doctors and their AR, and we're looking at and it's always prospective partners. Hey, I collect 100%. I'm like, then why do you have any AR? Whether that's patient wise or insurance. I was like, I mean, I'm not saying you don't. I get it. Like, you're probably really good at this, but to your point, you could be better.
When you're a single doctor, right? It's a lifestyle business, right?
Well, yeah.
And so your answer is like, did we collect our $100,000 this month, right? Did we collect the $100,000? Well, we collected $98,000. Oh, it's great. But the doctors don't know that there's 4 months of revenue that's sitting out in the wind, right?
Yeah.
So,
Or do they have time? Time is a limited resource, right? I've got to focus my efforts on running this business, and there are components of that I can and can't always do at 100%. So how can I do this best? But that's where you guys come in. What do you, and hopefully you can tell us a little bit of what is like forthcoming with InsideDesk. Like, you guys have new stuff that you're working on that you're pushing forward with? Yeah,
we have a couple of new things. One of our products is AI dialing, right? So today, you can go and find data, and like it takes 14 minutes to call a payer and get a response. And so today, Inside Dial actually makes those phone calls for our clients, for the users.
Is that a play on InsideDesk, Inside Dial?
That's right.
I love that.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue.
And it makes those phone calls for them, gets those responses, and so the users don't have to sit on the phone, right, waiting for someone to pick up or get disconnected or whatever it is. So that's been out for a little bit, but our clients, every month our clients order more of them as they realize, like, oh, wow, our users don't have to sit on the phones. Part of revenue cycle as a problem, just generally speaking, is the job's not fun, right? Everyone wants to be challenged. Everyone wants to solve problems. And so if you give them the pieces to solve, they're going to do that. But if you're like, hey, you need to go sit on the queue with an insurance payer, and you're going to do that, 3 hours every single day. It's like that's not a fun job, right? So how do we make it a little bit more fun? And so the next thing that's coming out is we've centralized, right, kind of that claims management part, right, given visibility and all that workflow. The next part is posting, right? Posting is a big deal when you have a DSO with 750 offices and trying to figure out how do I reconcile the dollars that came in to the PMS, to the EOB. It's cumbersome. It's hard work, right? And so our job is to kind of fix that next part. And then here in the future, patient AR, which is everyone's.
Whoa. Oh, wow. that I'll tell you what, that's a tall task for sure.
Well,
that's, again, the tech is fun. Nerd.
Hey, I'm all about being a nerd.
It's cool to hear what's coming up. I'm interested to see how it all ends up playing out. Like you were saying, how much has changed in the last 5 or 10 years. I'm interested to see what that looks like in the next. Before we wrap up, what piece of leadership advice would you want our listeners to take away from this episode?
Leadership advice?
Mm-hmm.
Look, I think...
Or a lesson you've learned, something that you would say, here's my nugget.
Yeah, look, I don't think this isn't a secret, but I mean, I think when you think about dental, just generally speaking, right, it's a people business. I mean, it's an intimate people business, right? You're sitting there with your mouth open, your hands are in somebody's mouth, and it's like, oh, things got cavities and breath's real nice,
Paints a picture.
But when you think about leadership, it's a people business, right? You can talk about goaling and you can talk about mission and you can talk about all these things, but at the end of the day, our business is about connection, right? And if you have a great company doing great things and your people are unhappy, it doesn't matter. They won't be great for very long, right? So it's always important I think the silly things that we do are the most, I'm talking about from a cultural standpoint, right? Are kind of the most important ones, right? Mm-hmm. And we do a book club every week, or every month, every quarter, with the employees, and I'm sure they hate it. You know what I mean? I'm sure
what book is it right now?
Good to Great.
Oh, nice.
I don't know why I asked. I don't read that much. Sounds cool, though.
But if we stop doing it, one day they'd be like, why don't we do book club anymore, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you do that book club, you end up finding out stories about people that relate to the book, and you start to know the people left and right of you in a very personable way. And I think if you don't have a best friend at work, you're not going to be happy at work, right? So you guys live in this amazing place, and you have...
We don't live here, to be clear. We're not severed.
You're... I love that. That was really good, actually. Okay. You guys spend your days here, right? And retention's about having people that you're connected to, right? People that you not just work with, but trust. And so I think we've all had great bosses that were jerks, and we've all had bad bosses that were nice. But at the end of the day, if you're nice or if you're mean, are your people connected? Are they connected to each other in a personal way? And if you can do that, then the mission matters, right? Then the goals matter. And until you have that connection, the goals and the mission doesn't matter. They're going to be like, all right, great, you're going to go make a ton of money selling this company, and what do I get out of it?
Yeah, who cares?
But that connection allows businesses, I think, to drive to goals that you thought you weren't going to hit.
Mic drop, baby.
Yeah, that was great. Well, Eric, thank you for coming on. I know that this can be intimidating. First time you sit in here with all the bells and whistles. That
I don't think we're as intimidating as you think we are.
I'm just saying, like, maybe we could be.
Okay.
But this was a lot of fun. We'd love to have you back sometime, and certainly when you're up here with Tammy and folks, please come by. But that being said, MB2 Undergrounders, we have reached the end of another episode. We will talk to you next time.
See you on the flip-flop.